All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're all about getting you prepped for an engineered woodboard grader interview. It's like imagine walking in feeling super confident knowing you've got this. That's what we're going for.
Yeah, we're going to make sure you've got the knowledge and the strategies to really impress, not just answer questions, but really impress those hiring managers.
We've got a bunch of resources here, like career guides, interview guides, and we'll even peek into how RoleCatcher's AI can give you a real advantage.
Like a secret weapon, almost.
Okay, first off, what does an engineered woodboard grader actually do? It's got to be more than just staring at wood, right?
Well, way more. High-performance wood products. Plywood, laminated veneer lumber, that's LVL, by the way, oriented strand board, OSB. They're engineered for strength, gotta be durable, gotta be consistent.
So it's like specialized wood, not just any lumber.
Exactly. And the grader. You are the quality gatekeeper, making sure these boards meet the top standards. Doesn't matter if they're going into a skyscraper or, someone's bookshelf.
Big responsibility then. Our career guide actually mentioned some pros and cons about this career path. What jumps out at you?
Well, demand's high, which is good if you're job hunting, right? Good earning potential, you can climb the ladder. But it's not a desk job. You're in a manufacturing environment. It could be noisy, physically demanding. Got to be okay with that.
Makes sense. Not for everyone, but if you like hands-on work and seeing the results, could be a great fit.
So let's get into the interview, prep the heart of our deep dive today.
We'll walk you through some of the most common questions, break down what they're really asking, and give you a framework to build your answers.
And remember, we're spending about 75% of our time on these questions. We'll even brainstorm using the sample responses and those career stage example profiles from the guide.
It's like a dress rehearsal for the real deal. Ready?
Absolutely. Let's start with this one. Seems basic, but it's your chance to shine. Can you tell us about your experience working with different types of engineered wood boards? They're not just looking for a list. They want to know you really know these boards. Can you talk about what makes each one unique? Have you used them in real situations?
So not enough to just say, yeah, I've seen plywood before.
Nope. This is your chance to show off what you know. Let's say you've worked with plywood, OSB, and LVL. Don't just name them, pick one or two that fit the job description and go deeper.
Okay, so let's say this job's focused on construction. I could say, in my last role, I used plywood and OSB a lot. For load-bearing stuff, like roofing, I found OSB, with its strands going in different directions, had better shear strength, so it didn't delaminate as easily as plywood under stress.
Perfect. You're showing you know your stuff, Andy, how it works in the real world. Now, be ready for follow-ups.
Like what kind?
They might ask you to compare different boards or get even more specific, like, what are some challenges you've had with OSB and how'd you overcome them? Have those examples ready.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's try another one. How do you ensure the quality and consistency of the boards you grade?
This is all about process. Are you precise? Do you have a system? Do you get the standards? Do you have a good eye for detail? They want to see all that.
So walk them through my step-by-step inspection.
Exactly. Describe how you visually inspect, what defects you look for, how you use tools to check moisture content, load bearing, the whole 9 yards. Oh, and mention those industry standards by name.
Right, like the APA, the Engineered Wood Association, and their grading rules specifically.
Yes. Shows you're not just talking the talk, you know the rules of the game. Get a little technical here. Show off what you know about testing methods.
Now, what if I'm newer to this and haven't done the grading myself? Maybe I've assisted or shadowed experienced graders.
Totally fine. Focus on what you observed. You could say, while I haven't independently done the grading yet, I've been closely involved and I'm familiar with the procedures and standards. Then describe what you learned.
That's a good way to put it. What kind of follow-ups could they ask about quality control?
They might ask about specific defects and how to spot them. What's delamination look like? How do you check for warping? Or they give you a scenario, you've got a board that's borderline minor defect, but not a clear reject. What do you do? Always have examples that show your judgment, your problem solving.
All right, this next one gets into a specific situation. They ask, can you describe a time you had to make a difficult grading decision?
This is what they call a behavioral question. They're seeing how you think on your feet, how you handle pressure, how you keep quality top priority even when it's tough.
How do I pick a good story for this one?
Think of a time you had to make a judgment call. Maybe you had to balance quality standards with deadlines, or what the customer wanted. Maybe you saw a tiny defect others miss.
So a situation where there wasn't an easy answer.
Exactly. Use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Walk them through your thought process. Show them you're a problem solver and you're doing the right thing.
For example, I could say, once I had to grade LVL beams for a huge construction project. Deadline was tight, but I noticed some minor checks in a few beams. I knew those checks could weaken them over time, even if they technically passed. I talked to my supervisor, and we rejected those beams, even though it meant a delay. The customer wasn't happy at first, but we explained why, that we care about safety, making sure the structure lasts. They ended up appreciating that we were diligent.
That's a perfect example. You're showing integrity, communication skills, and that you make the tough call even when people are pushing back.
Now, what about follow-up questions on this one?
They might ask what you learned from that experience. Looking back, would you do anything differently? Or how did it change how you approach grading? Be ready to reflect on your actions. Show you're always learning.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How about staying current in the world of engineered wood? They might ask, how do you stay up to date on industry standards and changes?
This one seems simple, but it's your chance to show you're proactive, passionate about what you do. They want someone who goes above and beyond.
So, mentioning conferences and trade journals is a good start, right?
It is. But be specific. Name the publications, organizations, websites you follow. Do you check out Woodworking Network online? Go to the International Woodworking Fair.
Okay, and I could say something like, I read an article recently on Woodworking Network online about a new moisture-resistant coating for engineered wood. I shared it with my team, and we're looking at ways to maybe incorporate it into what we do.
Now you're talking. You're not just reading stuff. You're finding ways to improve things to contribute to the team.
Before we move on, what about RoleCatcher, that AI tool you mentioned? How can it help with these tough questions?
RoleCatcher's like your personal career coach. It analyzes job descriptions and helps you tailor your answers to exactly what those employers are looking for.
So it's not just generic advice, it's specific to the jobs I apply for.
Exactly. And it has this cool AI feedback feature. You practice your answers out loud, and RoleCatcher will analyze everything, how you say it, what you say, even gives you tips on how to make it better.
That's amazing, like having a mock interview with an expert who tells you exactly what to work on.
It really is. And it's not just about one interview. It's about building skills for your whole career. Okay, back to those questions. They might ask, how do you handle difficult customers or suppliers who disagree with your grading?
Ooh, this one sounds tricky. How do I answer that without sounding like I'm always fighting with people?
Focus on your ability to listen, to see things from their side, and find a compromise. Explain that you stay calm, professional, and you always back up your decisions with the standards and guidelines.
So something like, I know not everyone's going to agree with me all the time. When someone disagrees, I listen carefully to what they have to say, try to see their perspective. Then I explain my reasons calmly and clearly, using the industry standards to back me up. I'm always looking for a solution that keeps the quality high and maintains a good working relationship.
Perfect. You come across as diplomatic and solution-focused. And having a real example of a time you successfully handled a disagreement makes your answer even stronger.
Okay, noted. This next one is about applying your knowledge. They might ask, can you talk about your experience grading boards for specific things, like furniture or construction?
This is about knowing that grading isn't one size fits all. Different uses have different requirements, different tolerances. A board for a fancy piece of furniture has stricter standards than one used for framing a house.
So I need to show I understand those differences. What if I mostly worked in one area, like construction?
Even if you haven't personally graded for everything, you can still show you understand. Talk about the properties that are important for each use. Like, my main experience is with construction boards, but I know that furniture grade boards have to look better, with good grain patterns, consistent color, and a perfect surface.
That makes sense. Shows I get the bigger picture. What kind of follow-ups might they ask about specific applications?
They might go deeper into specifics. Like, what's different about grading plywood for sheathing versus cabinetry? Or they might give you a scenario. Imagine you're grading LVL for a curved roof. What are you looking for? Be ready to think on your feet and apply what you know.
All right, I'm already feeling more prepared. This next one seems to be about handling a fast-paced environment. Like, how do you handle high volume or fast-paced grading?
It's more than just keeping up. It's about staying accurate and efficient when the pressure's on. Can you focus? Stay organized? Prioritize? They want to see that.
So should I talk about how I stay calm under pressure?
Definitely. But also, showcase your organization, your time management skills. Do you prioritize well? Do you have a system for staying organized even when it's crazy?
So I could say I actually thrive in fast-paced environments. I'm good at managing my time. making sure things get done on time without sacrificing quality. And I believe in clear communication with my team, so we're all on the same page and working efficiently.
Perfect. You sound proactive, in control, even when it's hectic. And again, a specific example of a time you excelled in a high-pressure situation makes it even better.
Speaking of excelling, before we go on, what about career progression? The guide talks about moving up from entry-level to senior roles. It's helpful to see where this can lead.
It is. You might start as a grader, learning the ropes. Then, with experience, you could supervise, mentor new graders, make sure everyone's consistent. Later on, you might even be developing new quality control systems, influencing the whole industry.
So it's not just a job, it's a potential career path with real growth. Okay, back to the questions. This one's about tools. Tell us about your experience with grading equipment, like calipers or moisture meters.
This is a technical one. They're checking your hands-on experience. Can you use the tools accurately and effectively?
So don't just list tools I've seen, describe how I've actually used them.
Exactly. Talk about measurements you've taken, the precision needed, any challenges you faced. For instance, I'm comfortable using calipers to measure thickness and width, making sure they're within the tolerances. And I've used moisture meters to check the moisture content, which is important for knowing if the wood is stable.
What about those follow-up questions they might throw?
They might ask about calibration procedures, specific techniques for accurate measurements, or even a hypothetical like, you're measuring a warped board, how do you get an accurate reading? Show off your technical knowledge and how you solve problems.
This next one feels like they're testing how detail-oriented I am. Can you describe a time you found a defect that others missed?
This is your chance to shine. Highlight that keen eye you have, your dedication to catching problems early.
So, I need a story where I went above and beyond, noticed a tiny flaw nobody else saw.
Exactly. What caught your eye? Why was it important? During an inspection, I saw the slight discoloration on some plywood sheets. It was really faint, most people would missed it, but I knew it could mean decay or maybe fungus growing. I flagged it, we tested it further, and I was right. We were able to pull those sheets out, prevented a whole quality control issue.
That shows I care about quality, and I can spot those tiny details.
And that you're not just going through the motions, you're actively making sure things are done right.
What kind of follow-ups could they ask about that situation?
They might ask what techniques or tools you used to find the defect, or what would happen if you hadn't caught it. How would that discoloration have affected the plywood? What are the risks of using bad materials in construction? Be ready to talk about the bigger picture.
Okay, this next one seems to be about meeting specific needs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure the boards you grade match what the customer wants?
This is about being customer-focused, detail-oriented. It's not just about general standards, it's about making each customer happy.
So being adaptable and responsive to what they need.
Exactly. Tell them how you learn the customer's specs, how you talk to them to clarify things, how you make sure your grading matches what they asked for.
Like I could say, first thing I do is read the customer's specs carefully. Then I talk to them directly if I have any questions, just to be sure I understand what they expect. And throughout the whole grading process, I keep checking back to those specs, making sure the boards meet every requirement.
Great approach. You're proactive, you communicate well, and you're focused on meeting those specific needs.
Now, before we move on, let's talk about RoleCatcher again. How can it help with these customer-focused questions?
RoleCatcher's great for this because it can analyze those job descriptions and find the key words, the skills related to customer service and communication that the employer wants.
So I can tailor my answers to highlight those skills.
Exactly. And don't forget about the feedback feature. Practice answering these questions, focusing on how you handle customers, and RoleCatcher will give you personalized feedback. Make your answers even stronger.
Like a secret weapon that tells you what the hiring manager wants to hear. Okay, back to the questions. This one seemed to be about handling pressure and staying focused. How do you deal with high volume or fast-paced grading environments?
It's about more than just keeping up. It's about staying accurate and efficient under pressure. Can you focus? Stay organized. Prioritize. That's what they're looking for.
So, talk about staying calm under pressure.
Absolutely. But also your organization skills, how you manage your time. Can you prioritize tasks? Do you have a system to stay organized even when things are crazy busy?
I could say, I actually thrive in fast-paced environments. I'm good at managing my time, making sure things get done on time without sacrificing quality, and I believe in clear communication with my team so we're all on the same page and working efficiently.
Perfect. You sound proactive, in control, even when things are hectic. And a specific example of a time you excelled in a high-pressure situation always makes it better.
Speaking of excelling, before we move on, what about career progression? The guide mentioned moving up from entry level to senior roles. It's good to know where this career can go.
It is. You might start as a grader, learning everything. Then, with experience, you could supervise, mentor new graders, make sure everyone's doing things consistently. Later on, you might even be developing new quality control systems, influencing the whole industry.
It's not just a job, it's a potential career with real growth possibilities. Okay, back to the interview questions. This one's about the tools of the trade. Tell us about your experience using grading equipment, things like calipers and moisture meters.
This is a technical one. They want to know about your hands-on experience. Can you use these tools accurately and effectively? That's what they want to hear.
So don't just list the tools, explain how I've used them in real situations.
Exactly. Talk about the specific measurements you've taken, the precision needed, any challenges you've overcome. For example, I'm comfortable using calipers to measure thickness and width, making sure they're within tolerance. And I've used moisture meters to check the moisture content, which is essential for knowing if the wood's stable, right?
What about those follow-up questions they always seem to have?
Oh, they might ask about calibration procedures, specific techniques to get accurate readings, or even a hypothetical like, imagine you're measuring a warped board. How do you make sure you get an accurate measurement? Be ready to show off your technical knowledge, your problem-solving skills.
This next one feels like they're testing my attention to detail. Can you describe a time when you found a defect in a board that others had missed?
This is where you shine. Show them your keen eye, your dedication to catching those problems early.
So I need a story where I went above and beyond, spotted a tiny flaw that everyone else overlooked.
Exactly. Tell them what caught your attention and why it was important. Like, during a routine inspection, I noticed this tiny, almost invisible warp in a stack of plywood sheets. It was super subtle, most people would have missed it, but I knew that even a slight warp could affect the structural integrity of the final product. I flagged it, and when we looked closer, we found that the whole batch had been stored incorrectly, which caused the warping.
That shows I'm all about quality, and I don't miss those little details.
It shows you're not just going through the motions, you're actively making sure things are done right.
What kind of follow-up questions could they ask about this situation?
They might ask what techniques or tools you use to find the defect, or what would happen if you hadn't caught it. Like, how could that warp have affected the plywood? What are the risks of using bad materials in construction? Be ready to talk about the bigger picture.
Okay, this next one is all about meeting specific needs. How do you ensure that the boards you grade meet the customer's specifications and requirements?
It's about being customer-focused, detail-oriented. It's not just about general standards, it's about making each customer happy.
So being adaptable and responsive to what they need.
Exactly. Explain how you learn the customer specs, how you talk to them if something's unclear, how you make sure your grading aligns with what they asked for.
I could say something like, the first thing I do is carefully review the customer specifications and requirements. Then, if I have any questions, I contact the customer directly to make sure I understand their expectations completely. And throughout the grading process, I keep referring back to those specs, guaranteeing the boards meet every single requirement.
That's a great approach. You're proactive, you communicate well, and you're focused on meeting their specific needs.
Now, before we move on, let's talk about RoleCatcher one more time. How can it help with these customer-focused questions?
It's really useful here because it can analyze job descriptions and find those key words, the skills that relate to customer service and communication that the employer is looking for.
So I can tailor my answers to emphasize those skills.
Precisely. And don't forget the feedback feature. Practice answering these questions, focusing on your customer service skills, and RoleCatcher will give you personalized feedback to make your answers even better.
It's like a secret weapon that decodes what the hiring manager wants to hear. Okay, back to those interview questions. This one can be a bit tricky. How have you stayed up to date with industry standards and changes in engineered wood products in the last 6 months?
This one goes beyond the basics. They want to know if you're genuinely engaged, committed to continuous learning.
So saying, I read magazines won't cut it.
Nope. You need specific examples. Recent webinars or workshops, any groundbreaking articles or research you've read, new industry developments you've been following.
All right, so I could say, in the last 6 months, I've been closely following the discussions about the new formaldehyde emission standards for composite wood products. I've read several articles in Woodworking Network online, attended a webinar hosted by the APA on that topic, and I'm actively participating in online forums where professionals are sharing their experiences and best practices for implementing those new standards.
That's perfect. You're demonstrating that you're not just aware of the changes, you're actively learning about them and discussing them with your
It
peers.
shows I'm not just keeping up, I'm trying to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher can help here too. Its AI can analyze industry trends and news, keeping you informed and prepared for these questions.
That's incredibly valuable, like having a research assistant who keeps you in the loop. Okay, let's move on to another question that assesses your ability to handle pressure. Describe a situation where you had to balance competing priorities, like meeting deadlines versus ensuring quality.
This one's about your time management, your ability to prioritize, and your commitment to quality, even when things are hectic.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between speed and accuracy.
Exactly. Think of a time when you had to juggle multiple demands, maybe a tight deadline, while making sure every board met strict quality standards. How'd you handle it?
Okay, so I could say, I once had to grade a large shipment of OSB panels for a time-sensitive construction project. We were under a lot of pressure to meet that deadline, but I knew those panels were going to be used for structural sheathing, so quality was crucial. I broke down the task into smaller chunks, delegated some of the initial sorting to my team, and focused on the final inspection and grading myself. I also made sure to communicate clearly with the production team about the importance of maintaining quality, even with the time constraints. In the end, we met the deadline without compromising on quality.
That's an excellent example. You're showing that you can manage your time, delegate tasks effectively, and communicate clearly, all while maintaining those quality standards.
It shows I can handle pressure and prioritize effectively.
Exactly. Now, be ready for follow-up questions. They might ask about your specific strategies for time management, or how you handle situations where deadlines and quality seem to clash.
Okay, let's tackle another one that dives into your interpersonal skills. How do you handle disagreements or conflicts with colleagues or supervisors?
This is all about your professionalism, your communication skills, and how you navigate those tricky situations constructively.
So showing that I can work well on a team even when people have different opinions.
Exactly. Focus on your ability to listen respectfully, communicate clearly, and find common ground. You could say something like, I believe that open and honest communication is essential for resolving conflicts. When disagreements arise, I listen carefully to my colleagues' perspectives, try to understand their point of view. Then I explain my reasoning clearly and calmly, always focusing on a solution that benefits the team and upholds the quality standards we're committed to.
That's a great approach. You're not afraid of conflict, but you handle it professionally and constructively. And I could make my answer even better with a real-life example of a time I successfully resolved a conflict with a colleague or a supervisor.
Absolutely. A real-world example brings your answer to life and shows that you can put those skills into practice.
Okay, I'm feeling more and more prepared with each question we tackle. The next one seems to be about continuous learning and professional development. What steps do you take to stay informed about new developments and trends in the engineered wood products industry?
This is your chance to show off your passion for this field and your commitment to staying ahead of the curve. They want to see that you're proactive, curious, and always looking to expand your knowledge.
So I need to go beyond just mentioning industry publications and conferences.
Exactly. Talk about the specific publications you read, like the Journal of Structural Engineering or Woodworking Network online. Mention specific industry events you attend, like the International Builders Show or the Forest Products Society annual meeting. And don't forget about online resources and networking opportunities.
For example, I can say, I am an active member of several online forums and LinkedIn groups that are dedicated to engineered wood products. These platforms allow me to connect with other professionals, exchange ideas, and learn about new trends and technologies. Just recently, I learned about a new type of fire-retardant coating for wood products through an online forum discussion. I'm currently researching that coating further to see if it's something we could potentially implement in our facility.
Excellent. You're showing them that you're not just passively absorbing information, you're actively seeking out new knowledge, and you're eager to learn and apply it.
And I can also use RoleCatcher to help me stay informed about industry trends and prepare for these types of questions.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher's AI can be a valuable resource for keeping you up to date and making sure your answers reflect the latest industry developments.
It's like having a personal research assistant that keeps me in the loop on all things engineered wood. Okay, let's move on to a question that digs a little deeper into your work style and how you approach problem solving. Describe your approach to making decisions when you don't have all the information, when things are a bit ambiguous.
They're interested in your critical thinking skills, how you gather and analyze information, and your confidence in making decisions, even when you don't have all the answers.
So it's about being resourceful and decisive, even when faced with uncertainty.
Exactly. Focus on your process. Do you gather as much information as possible? Do you consult with experts or colleagues? Do you rely on your experience and intuition to fill in the gaps?
I could say, when faced with incomplete or ambiguous information, I take a systematic approach to decision-making. First, I gather as much relevant information as I can, consulting with colleagues, industry resources, or technical documentation. Then, I analyze the available information, identify the key factors, and assess the potential risks and benefits of different courses of action. If I have to, I'm not afraid to make a judgment call based on my experience and intuition, but I always document my reasoning, and I'm ready to adjust my approach as new information comes in.
That's a great response. You're demonstrating a thoughtful and structured approach to decision-making, even when faced with uncertainty.
And I can illustrate my process with a specific example from my past experience.
Absolutely. A real-world example will make your answer come alive and show that you can actually apply those skills in a practical situation.
Okay, let's tackle a question that can be a bit uncomfortable. What are your salary expectations?
This one can be tricky, but it's important to be prepared and confident in your response.
So I should research the typical salary range for someone with my experience and in this location.
Exactly. Use online resources like salary surveys and job boards to gather that information, and be ready to articulate your value to the employer, highlighting your skills, your accomplishments, and how you can contribute to their success.
I can say, based on my research and my experience in this industry, I'm aiming for a salary range of $6 to $. However, I'm flexible and open to discussing a compensation package that aligns with my skills and the responsibilities of this role.
That's a good approach. You're clear about your expectations, but you're also showing that you're flexible and willing to negotiate.
And I can use RoleCatcher to get insights into salary ranges for similar positions in my area.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher can be a very helpful tool for salary research, which can give you an advantage in negotiations.
All right, I'm feeling much more confident about answering those salary questions.
Great. And remember, it's a two-way street. You're interviewing them too, to see if this company is the right fit for you.
That's a good reminder. I should have some questions prepared for them as well.
Definitely. Asking insightful questions shows that you're engaged, curious, and genuinely interested in this opportunity.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. What are your salary expectations for this position?
That's a great question. Salary is an important part of any job. Okay, let's get back to those interview questions. They might ask something like, tell me about a time you had to work with a difficult colleague or, a difficult customer.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It feels like a trap, like they're trying to get me to say something bad about someone.
Yeah, they want to see how you handle conflict, how you stay professional. Remember, don't badmouth anyone. It's about showing you can communicate, you can handle tough situations with people.
So I should focus on a time when I turned a conflict around, made it a positive thing.
Exactly. Think of a time you dealt with a demanding customer or maybe a colleague who had a totally different way of doing things. How did you listen to them, explain your side, and find a solution that worked for everyone?
Okay, I could talk about a time when a customer was upset about the grade I gave to some lumber. I could say that I listened to them, really tried to understand why they were frustrated. Then, I walked them through the grading criteria, showed them exactly why I made that assessment. We even looked at the boards together, pointed out the defects, explained how those defects would affect the finished product. In the end, they understood, and they really appreciated that I took the time to explain everything.
That's a great example. You're showing them that you stay calm, you communicate well, you can build a good relationship even when things are tough.
And it shows I care about quality A&D customer satisfaction.
Exactly. And remember those career stage examples from the guide? Those can help you think of scenarios that fit your experience level.
Right. Like if I'm entry level, I might not have dealt with a huge customer conflict, but I could talk about a time I disagreed with a coworker on a project.
Exactly. Make those examples your own.
This next question seems like it's all about problem solving. Describe a time you had to solve a problem without an obvious solution.
This is a classic one. They want to see your critical thinking, your creativity, how resourceful you are, how do you handle a challenge, come up with solutions.
So thinking outside the box, being persistent.
Yes. Think of a time you had a unique challenge. Maybe a technical issue with the equipment, a weird problem with a shipment of lumber. How'd you figure it out?
I could talk about a time when our moisture meter just stopped working right in the middle of an inspection. We had a deadline. Sending it out for repair would have taken forever. I started troubleshooting, reading the manual, looking online for answers. Turns out there was sawdust stuck on the sensor. I cleaned it off, recalibrated the meter, and it worked. We finished the inspection on time.
That's a great story. You took initiative, figured it out yourself, went the extra mile.
And it shows I know my way around the equipment.
Exactly. Be ready for follow-ups, though. They might ask about the steps you took, what resources you used. Be detailed about how you solved the problem.
Okay, this next one is about safety, which is obviously huge in the wood industry. They might ask, how do you make safety a priority in your work?
This is about showing you understand safety protocols, that you're committed to a safe work environment for everyone.
So more than just saying safety is important.
Way more. Be specific. What procedures do you follow? What safety gear do you use? Any safety training you've had? What's your overall approach to safety on the job?
I could mention that I always wear all the safety gear, glasses, gloves, hearing protection whenever I'm grading lumber. I also watch out for hazards, like dust buildup, and I follow the rules for cleaning and maintaining equipment.
Good start. Now take it further. Have you ever spotted a safety hazard and fixed it? Been part of safety training? Shared tips with coworkers?
Actually, yeah. One time I saw a stack of lumber that was leaning really badly, like it was about to fall over. I told my supervisor right away and helped secure it.
Perfect. You're showing them that you're proactive about safety. You take action to prevent accidents.
It means I'm looking out for everyone, not just myself.
Exactly. And don't forget, RoleCatcher can help you research a company's safety culture, prepare for these kinds of questions.
That's right. I can use it to look up their safety record, their training programs, see how serious they are about safety.
Okay, let's move on to a question that usually comes towards the end of an interview. Do you have any questions for us?
This is my chance to show that I'm interested, that I've been paying attention. But what kind of questions should I ask?
It's your chance to get more information, clear up any doubts you have, ask about their specific grading standards and procedures, the types of wood products they work with, the career paths within the company. You could also ask about the team dynamics, the company culture, the day-to-day stuff.
Those are good questions, and I should write down a few beforehand so I don't forget.
Absolutely. Having some questions ready shows you've put thought into it, that you really want to learn more. Now, let's talk about continuous learning. It's vital in this field.
Totally agree. Especially in an industry like this, with new technologies, materials, standards popping up all the time.
They might ask you, how do you stay up to date on the latest advancements in engineered wood products? They want to know that you're dedicated to professional development, that you're excited about keeping up with the industry.
What's the best way to answer that? What specific examples should I give?
Go beyond the basics. Mention industry conferences and trade shows you've attended, online courses or webinars you've taken, research papers you've read. Are you a member of any professional organizations like the Forest Products Society or the APA? Do you read industry magazines, follow any blogs or podcasts?
I could say something like, I just finished an online course on advanced grading techniques for cross-laminated timber, and I'm reading a really interesting book about sustainable sourcing practices for wood products. I'm also an active member of the Forest Products Society, and I attend their webinars and conferences regularly.
Perfect. You're showing them you're taking concrete steps to stay informed, and you're genuinely interested in the field. And don't forget about RoleCatcher. You can use it to stay up to date on new trends and be even more prepared for these kinds of questions.
Right, it's like having my own personal research assistant to help me stay ahead of the game.
Now let's talk about those technical interview questions. They might ask something like, describe a complex technical problem you faced and how you solved it.
Oh, this one sounds like it's really designed to test my knowledge and my problem-solving skills.
It is. They're looking for proof that you can analyze tough situations, use your technical expertise, and find effective solutions.
Yeah.
Think about a time you encountered a real challenge, maybe a problem with a batch of lumber, a confusing part of the grading standards, or a piece of equipment that just wouldn't cooperate. How did you approach the problem? What steps did you take to figure it out, and what was the result?
Okay, I could talk about a time when I was grading some LVL beams, and I noticed some inconsistencies in the density and strength. I started by double-checking the grading standards and talking to some of the more experienced graders. Then we did some extra tests, like ultrasonic testing and moisture content analysis, just to gather more information. It turned out that a few of the beams hadn't been dried properly during manufacturing, and that was affecting their strength. We were able to identify those beams and make sure that only the best quality lumber was used for the project.
That's a great example. You're showing them you can analyze things, you pay attention to detail, and you're willing to work with others to solve those complex problems.
And it shows that I know my stuff when it comes to testing methods, and that I'm really dedicated to quality.
Exactly. Be ready to explain the technical details of the problem and how you solved it.
Okay, this next one seems a bit more personal. What are your greatest strengths as an engineered woodboard grader?
This is your time to shine. Showcase what makes you a great grader. Think about the skills, knowledge, and personality traits that are most important in this job.
Well, I'm really proud of my attention to detail. I'm super careful during inspections, always double-checking my work to be accurate.
That's a great strength to highlight, especially in a job where precision is so important.
I'm also a fast learner, and I love learning new things. I'm always reading industry stuff, going to webinars, and trying to learn from the pros.
Excellent. That shows you're committed to professional development and you're keeping up with the latest stuff in the field. What else?
I'm also a team player. I believe in collaboration. I like to share what I know and work together to find the best solutions.
Those are all fantastic strengths. Remember, you can use the pros and cons section from the career guide for more ideas. It mentions physical stamina, for example. If you're in good shape and like hands-on work, that's definitely a strength to bring up.
Oh, good point. I'll add that.
Now be ready for the follow-up question. What are your weaknesses?
Oh, no, not that one. Everybody hates that question.
It can be tough, but remember, it's not about revealing huge flaws or disqualifying yourself. It's about showing self-awareness that you're always trying to improve.
So how do I choose a weakness that doesn't make me sound terrible?
Think of a skill you're working on. Maybe you're not great with a certain type of grading software, or you get nervous about public speaking.
Okay, I could say something like, I'm good with most grading software programs, but I'm still learning the XYZ software, which is pretty common in the industry. I'm taking an online course to get better at it.
Perfect. You're admitting there's something you need to work on, but you're also taking steps to get better.
And it shows I'm keeping up with new technologies.
Exactly. You can even use RoleCatcher to identify any skill gaps and make a plan to fill them in.
That's true. I can use it to look at job descriptions, see what skills are in high demand right now. Then I can focus on improving those areas.
Okay, let's tackle a question that can be a little awkward. Why do you want to work for our company specifically?
I know I have to do my research and customize my answer for each company, but sometimes it feels hard to go beyond the basics.
It's about finding those genuine connections. What speaks to you about this company? Is it their reputation for quality, their commitment to sustainability, their innovative products, their company culture or values?
Okay, let's say I'm interviewing with a company that's known for their sustainable forestry practices and being environmentally responsible.
Perfect. You could say, I'm really impressed with your commitment to sustainable forestry and all the work you do to minimize your environmental impact. It's important to me to work for a company that shares my values and is making a positive difference.
That sounds sincere, like I mean it, and it
Yeah.
connects my values with their mission.
Exactly. RoleCatcher can help you here too. You can use it to research their website, social media, news articles, find those points of connection.
It's like having a personal branding guru to craft the perfect message.
Okay, let's try another one that can be a bit tricky. Tell me about a time you failed and what you learned from it.
Ugh, not the failure question. This one always stresses me out.
It's normal to feel a little nervous about this one, but it's not about dwelling on your mistakes. It's about showing you can learn and grow from your experiences.
So pick a failure that wasn't a complete disaster, but one that taught me something important.
Exactly. Think of a time you messed up, hit a roadblock, or didn't get the result you wanted. What did you learn? How did it change how you work?
Okay, I could talk about a time when I missed a defect during an inspection. It was a knot, hidden under some bark, and I didn't see it at first. Luckily, someone else caught it during a second inspection. I felt awful, but it taught me to be even more thorough and pay attention to every detail. After that, I started double-checking everything, using more tools like a moisture meter to make sure I didn't miss anything.
That's a great example. You're honest about your mistake, but you're also showing what you learned and how you improved.
It shows that I'm always learning, and I take responsibility for my actions.
Exactly. Be prepared to discuss the specific lessons you learned and how they affected your grading from then on.
Okay, this next question seems to be about communication skills. Describe a situation where you had to explain something technical to someone who didn't know anything about it.
This is all about being able to communicate clearly, simply, so that anyone can understand, even if they don't know all the technical terms.
So breaking down complicated stuff into plain English.
Exactly. Think of a time when you had to explain something about grading, a testing method, or a lumber defect to someone who wasn't a wood expert. How did you change your language? Did you use analogies, visuals, anything to make sure they got it?
I could talk about a time when I had to explain moisture content in lumber to a group of new construction workers. I knew all the technical terms wouldn't make sense, so I used an analogy. I compared the wood to a sponge. When a sponge is wet, it's heavier and softer, but when it dries, it gets lighter and stiffer. Then I explained how moisture affects the strength and stability of lumber, why it's important to use dry lumber for construction.
That's a great example. You're showing you can communicate effectively by using simple language and relatable comparisons.
And it shows that I like to share what I know, help people understand the whole wood grading thing.
Exactly. Be ready for follow-ups, though. They might ask about specific communication challenges you faced or how you explain technical stuff to non-technical people. Share your insights and best practices.
Okay, let's tackle a question that can be a bit tricky. Why should we hire you for this position?
This is your closing statement, your chance to really sell yourself as the best candidate for the job.
So it's like my elevator pitch, my time to shine and convince them I'm the one they need.
Exactly. Think about what makes you uniquely qualified for this specific position. What skills, experiences, and personal qualities do you bring that make you stand out from everyone else?
I could say something like, I'm confident that I'm the perfect fit for this role because I have a deep understanding of wood grading standards, I'm passionate about quality, and I'm a fast learner and a great team player. Plus, I'm always looking for ways to learn and grow professionally. I'm certain that I could be a valuable asset to your team and help your company maintain its excellent reputation.
That's a strong and concise summary of your qualifications. You're emphasizing your key strengths, your enthusiasm, and your confidence.
And I could even boost my answer by sharing a specific achievement or a story that demonstrates my skills and experience.
Absolutely. A memorable anecdote can really seal the deal and leave a lasting impression.
Okay, we've gone through a ton of interview questions.
We have, but there's still more to come. Let's take another quick break, and then we'll dive into the final set of questions and insights. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. Technical stuff, those tricky behavioral questions, even how to talk about salary. But what about those things that don't really show up on a resume? Those personal qualities.
Yeah, those are important. It's not just about getting the job. It's about actually doing well, right? This career guide keeps talking about those less obvious traits.
It's about thriving in this career. Think about it. You're making decisions that affect safety, quality, a company's reputation. It's not just about memorizing the rules.
It's more than just knowing the technical stuff.
Way more. Integrity is huge. You'll be in situations where you could, let a bad board slip through, maybe to hit a deadline or to make a supplier happy. But someone with real integrity, they stick to those standards because they know those standards are there for a reason, to protect people.
Makes sense. Being ethical, responsible.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another one, patience. Grading. It's not always super exciting. You're doing these detailed inspections over and over. Got to have the right personality to stay focused when you're looking at board after board after board.
Yeah, I can see that. If you get bored easily, this isn't the job for you.
Nope. And then communication, you'll be talking to all kinds of people. Production crews, your boss, engineers, maybe even customers if something's wrong. You got to be able to explain your decisions clearly without making anyone mad, make sure everyone's on the same page. That's a big one.
So you got to be a people person too, not just a wood expert.
Exactly. And one last thing, might sound funny, but you got to have a real interest in wood.
That makes sense. I mean, you're going to be surrounded by it all day long. If you're actually fascinated by wood, the different types, how it's made, it'll make a difference.
It will. And that enthusiasm, it rubs off on people, makes you a better team member.
So it's not just checking off the skills on a list. It's about having the right mindset, those personality traits that make you stand out.
Right. And remember, the interview, it's just the start. The learning never stops in this field.
True. Even the best graders are always learning, keeping up with the industry.
So think about how you'll stay sharp. What magazines will you read? Online groups? Will you find a mentor, get more certifications?
Got to be proactive. Keep learning throughout your career.
Couldn't have said it better. Well, that brings us to the end of our engineered wood board grader interview deep dive. We've gone through the questions, practiced answers, even uncovered some career tips.
We've given you the tools, the confidence to walk into that interview and knock them dead.
Remember, this was all for you. We're rooting for you, not just to get the job, but to build an awesome career in this field. It's a good one.
So go out there, show them what you know, and keep learning. That's how you reach your full potential.